Our society is ready for this kind of transformation.
Society may
When
not be ready, but if they're not ready, they'll be made ready. Or some of them will basically get obsoleted. They'll not be in mainstream. Everything is going to change, Anush. When you have home automation itself will have enough AI.
what do you think are some of the common mistakes that a lot of VCs are doing?
The biggest mistake that VCs make is they kind of follow a trend blindly. Okay. And they also shun away certain things because if someone else is shunning it away. So again, in fact, if you say AI can solve a problem 100%, then I'll say it's NP complete.
Correct.
You have to break the problem down. You have to have human intervention. Now, the nature of your work might change because you may not do everything from scratch.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pragmatic AI, a podcast where we dive deep into the real stories from AI trenches, speaking with luminaries from the global AI ecosystem. You might be wondering why another AI podcast. Our goal is simple to bring authenticity to AI conversations and cut through the hype. Each episode will feature industry leaders, from founders to VCs to AI leaders to academics. These are people who have been building AI systems for the last 10, 15, 20 years. These are people who have seen through multiple AI hype cycles. I'm your host, Anuj Gupta. I'm a seasoned AI executive with more than 20 years of experience of working in core AI. I have incubated large AI teams across geographies. I now work as on demand head of AI, helping clients adopt AI faster and drive ROI from their AI efforts. Recently, we helped a YC company build a bunch of critical AI systems, demoed to none other than Sam Altman and Vinod Khosla, securing Series B from Khosla Ventures for this startup. I've also co-authored a major book in AI. The book gives a point of view of how do you do AI when you're part of industry and startups as opposed to research labs and academia. The book has been endorsed by top leaders coming from Carnegie Mellon, UCSG, DeepMind, Google AI, and many more. Join us as we explore the pragmatic side of AI, where the real stories are told. We have usually had researchers, industry leaders, entrepreneurs, or VCs on our podcast. Our guest today is very, very special. He's someone who has been all the above, a researcher, an industry leader, an entrepreneur, and a VC. Dr. Srikanth is a multifaceted leader with rich experience in technology, innovation, startup leadership, and venture investing and academic mentoring. He is currently a general partner at VenturEast Advisors. His career spans senior technology roles at global technology firms, including Persistent, Cognizant, HCL, WebGain, Informix, and HP. In early 1990s, he founded Pretzel Logic Software, scaling it to one of Bay Area's top 100 private companies before its acquisition by WebGain. He did his undergrad from IIT Madras and followed by a MS and a PhD in CS from UIUC. He has served as adjunct and visiting faculty at IIT Bhubaneswar, Virginia Tech, and Indian School of Business, shaping next generation of technology and business leaders. Let's welcome our guest for today. Hi, Srikanth. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Anuj?
I'm doing very well, Srikanth. Thank you so much for taking out time and doing this. Uh, in this podcast, we discuss various facets of AI, and I was wondering who next and who better than you, who has been a researcher, an entrepreneur, investor, top CXO in multiple IT companies. So I thought you would bring a very holistic perspective. So once again, thanks a lot for doing this. Uh, for the audience, Srikanth, it would be good if you can give a gist of what has been your journey like.
Sure. So actually, my journey as far as AI is concerned, because that's a relevant topic today, started in '84 when I landed up at UIUC to do my MS PhD in computer science. So AI was a very interesting new set of ways to actually look at stuff, solve problems. Mainly because when you look at standard CS algos, they've been reasonably well defined. Protocols had already been well defined, but there are a number of problems which are more real world, and where you needed to actually have a combination of, say, Edgar Dijkstra's basically what I call greedy algorithms, where you break down a problem and solve it with multiple optima, or you have basically more qualitative inputs into a particular situation where you desire a particular outcome, because not everything can be just done using algo logic, right? For example, because a human intervention does come. So we started studying things like, okay, how will a computer understand languages? So NLP started happening. So I was fortunate that one of my PhD guys, Greg Collins, was Roger Shank's direct student, and Roger Shank is basically the father of NLP. I had basically exposure to Rizad Mikalski's machine learning courses, which is both inductive and deductive reasoning, and at that time, then we had access to actually all kinds of languages which are basically more abstract to kind of capture. But I'm not a big fan of languages like Lisp and Prolog and all that, but they were there to actually play around with and actually create small problem statements. But essentially, it was basically the beginnings of something new as far as I was concerned. I ended up writing a PhD thesis on something called cooperative distributed problem solving. So today we have agentic nodes and all. These were nothing but agentic nodes with their own resident domain knowledge. And there was a protocol exchange between these nodes to kind of solve a problem collectively, because you want a diverse perspectives to solve a particular problem. So, for example, even if you're building a building, you have to have soil sciences, you have to have mechanics, you have to have building sciences, you have to have the smarts in terms of smart building concepts today. So it's a very, very kind of interdisciplinary field. It's no longer classic civil engineering. So
Yes.
that's the kind of problems you're modeling and trying to figure out, how do these knowledge bases or agents exchange information and come up with something. Obviously, it was a PhD thesis. Obviously, the code was all pretty shady, I would say, because grad students write code and then we're learning a new language like Lisp and all, which itself was fairly confusing, because rather than making things simpler from an abstraction perspective, they made it more complex. And
Yes.
as usual, the hardware guys got into it with their Lambda machines and symbolic Suzanne computer, where they were selling these workstations for way too much, let's put it that way, and wasting money. So, but some of those things actually struck with me, because I felt that the entire UI UX experience is going to change. I had the good fortune of working on Mosaic, as a grad student when I was at UIUC. I had the good fortune of working with people like Bill Joy on open source projects like VI. I had the good fortune of actually having several of these cool guys as mentors and whom we bounce
Oh,
ideas. And so when the evolution was, we did a lot of cool work on RPC, DCE. Then we actually kind of also ended up working on the first true DevOps platform called ClearCase, which had a lot of inbuilt rules built in. I wouldn't call it AI, but table-driven rules and things like that. So basically, think of preliminary aspects of co-pilots and all coming in, because they were guides and all. Before you check in a code, do you do your static analysis? What comes from static analysis? Do you fix your code? Do you get it peer reviewed? All that kind of good stuff, right? So somewhere it's been a continuum, and in the background things were starting to improve. Like suddenly the internet came because of the Mosaic work that we had done, and Netscape took it up, and then everyone's got a browser instead of the fat client that we used to have, which we were also working on vis-a-vis Project Athena at MIT and X Windows and all that.
got it.
So, so what's happened is everything has come to us in a nice democratized manner, because right now, from say all the automation, RPA kinds of things, which are rule-driven automation, business process automation, now we're getting to a point where things have to happen near real time. They have to actually collect data. Data is available. Compute is no longer the constraint, and so now you're beginning to see lots of these. LLM offerings, which people can actually use, Copilot offerings in terms of software engineering or other areas, where you can actually get decent guidance and decent input, right? But what does that mean actually? Because if you have 7 or 8 different versions of LLMs running around, first of all, it's confusing. Second of all, is it really going to solve problems or not? So I have a thesis here, but we'll talk about it towards the middle of this conversation. But that's
Sure.
been my journey right through. So during everything that I did, actually did a lot of product work, did a lot of first principles thinking, have always kind of viewed AI with respect because I think it's got a role to play, and I've seen that evolution happening, whether it's robotics, whether it's RPA, whether it's agentic AI, whether it's chatbots, whatever you might call it. And all of these companies we've actually kind of actively pursued, either worked with or invested in. So
Yeah.
that's basically the journey. And it's basically been 42 years of good fun. That's all I can say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Uh, you have been an entrepreneur as well as currently a VC. If if you were to start a startup today, what ideas would you work on?
If I were to do a startup today, I will do everything from scratch because I don't need to really think conventionally. I want to solve problems outside in. And AI, Gen AI, ChatGPT, or its variants like DeepSeek or whatever, right? Variants of it have the ability to provide the background and insight. So my whole design
Hmm.
towards next generation kind of applications or whatever you might call it will be very different. They'll be all very lightweight. They'll be microservices driven. They'll be configurable, and they'll be configurable or reconfigurable based on what's happening in the world. So it's no
Okay.
longer I would kind of build a central repository for accounting. Why the hell do you need it?
Yeah.
Right? I'm just giving you an example. I mean, why do you need like to pay Boku bucks to SAP, or even Zoho's tools are also pretty heavy, but they're better price. But you have to rethink the entire software world or software slash hardware world, because depending on what your business is, you may want to actually get inputs from the hardware
Correct.
sensors also, because that you have the ability to do all that. You have the ability to have agents which collect information, exchange information, have protocols, basically throw out what you call um, it's throw out exceptions and which we catch. I mean, it could be human intervention. It could also be some self-healing mechanisms. So
Yeah.
you start to see everything be a continuum. It's no longer I will kind of architect something in an MVC paradigm, or I'll have a back end and a front end, and they'll be rigid, and these are the so things are going to change. So that's how I would approach everything.
Sure. But sir, this is more from a technical standpoint. From a
Hmm.
business standpoint, what problem would
Business
you?
tremendous things to solve. First of all, why don't we fix our education? Our education system is very static. Why don't
Yeah.
you leverage a technology like that to start showing people practical things? I mean, we have crazy organizations like UGC, AICT, NCA, whatever, right?
Yeah.
NAC, NBA. We have experts, but fundamentally, the courses are still very static,
Yes.
and it doesn't prepare our kids, whether in school or in colleges. I mean, if there is such a term, so I envisage we can create a digital university where people are continuously learning and improving their skills and contributing. So that is where, say, something like uh, AI will significantly change things because you have access to all that data, right?
Mm. Yeah.
I
Okay.
give you one example. I can tell you similarly in healthcare, you can do a lot, okay,
Yes.
because it's a huge problem for India. And while you said let's not focus on India, the reason why I want to focus on India is because we have these issues
Yes.
and we have to solve for that. And if we
Yes.
solve for that efficiently, you will actually kind of provide valuable services, especially the government and folks like us who can rethink everything, right?
Got it. Got it. Uh, Sir, as a VC, you must be interacting with a lot of founders on a very regular basis. With respect to AI specifically, right? What is that one thing that most startup founders are still getting wrong?
With respect to AI,
Yeah.
yeah, I basically think they're catching their own tail. If they're really good techie co-founders, they'll actually think first principles and figure out how to make AI work for them. Today, what they're doing is, oh, ChatGPT has come. Let's use ChatGPT here. Let's use ChatGPT there.
Mm.
For example, not everything needs a ChatGPT. Not everything needs AI. A lot of the problems can be solved with basic automation and
Yeah.
rule driven stuff, which can actually be behind the scenes. You can modify the rules based on AI or machine learning, but that is the kind of pragmatic thinking you need, right? Otherwise, you're basically trying to solve something where no one appreciates the solution, right? And you are basically going around on panels and keynote speeches saying AI is going to change the world. That's all crap, okay? It's there. It's a natural evolution. You have to be smart. You have to pick things, right? Period.
Uh, Maybe coming to the other hat that you have thrown that out, right? Which is you have led some of the largest IT organizations on earth. Do you think that the traditional IT services model is gonna survive, especially
Okay.
in this AI first era? And if not, then what do you see coming up or replacing that?
So I think there are two parts to it. Number one, certain things will never go away because if you look at all the legacy stuff, it'll take a long time before the legacy back office stuff is thrown out. And that needs maintenance. And I don't think that talent pool is there in the US. And I think it's reasonably good in India because there are older people whom you can leverage, and that will continue.
Yes.
So that will be probably 50% of their business, most likely. The other 50% of the business will actually slowly decay because they are not fast enough. They're not thinking differently. For example, every attempt that I've seen in services companies to create a R&D or CTO function has actually failed. Why is it failed? Because the executive management, even though they started off wisely, are not willing to experiment. If I had an opportunity, I would kind of bring in a lot of cool interns. I look at all the things that I've automated for a lot of customers. Can it be redone? And basically go to work like crazy and improve profitability and try to do as many things that you can for the enterprise. But they don't think that way because they think time and material, project, large contract value. That thinking has to change. Otherwise, you'll be having smaller AI only type companies which will come and eat their lunch. A good example is Akaike Tech. You already know that. They're about 30 crores in revenue, growing very well. They've already built certain agentic frameworks to and leverage ChatGPT like an interface, not LLM, to
Yeah.
solve some domain-oriented problems in insurance, financial services. Now, each of the big guys has a practice in financial services, but are they actually leveraging these trends? Are they kind of going out and meeting startups? And are they actually dealing with startups ethically? Because half the time these guys will invite a small, bright software company to come in startup, and then they'll kill the startup company by giving them a whole bunch of things to do and promising that this will happen, that will happen. That is very, very unethical as far as IT services are concerned. And they
Mm.
need to stop that.
Got it. Got
And the
it.
capital markets need to punish them if they keep doing that.
Uh, so classically, the IT services companies have been dependent on clients primarily to get the requirements. Once the requirements are clear and they're in, they can largely go work independently, build the solution, and then come back and integrate. With AI, another facet that comes up is the data. And the
Right.
data is always owned by clients. Every large company says we have petabytes of data, but we all know when you actually go and start using the data, you are left with hardly anything as opposed to petabytes. This dependency of data and the IT services not being able to control that aspect of the whole life cycle, how do you see that play out?
It's easy solutions, right? We have public data sets, we have public models. There's nothing stopping you from experimenting except our own thinking, right?
Yeah,
That's why I keep going back to the executive thinking, the leadership. It is basically dead or yesterday's type of thinking. I
yeah,
am not at all impressed with any of the CEOs who are there in any of the big four companies. They're good, but they're not going to think out of the box. And
yeah,
they're not going to leverage what is called a CTO function, forward-looking function really well because they've never done that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that has to change.
So combining this with what you said previously also, right, that a lot of founders are trying to catch the tail of such and such. So in today's world, right, and I think Satya put out very well, right, that ultimately it's the ability of a business to reimagine itself completely in the light of AI, which is exactly what you are saying, right? First principle thinking, not just technically, but across the whole function, especially the senior you are. So, what advice, if you were to give a very structured 5 point advice to a CXO, what would
First,
you say?
first of all, the CXO needs to drop that CX title and just become a learner. Okay, he needs to become humble. He should not go and attend panel talks. He shouldn't go on keynotes where he doesn't know anything. Let him actually do all the R&D with a small bunch of people and adequately get kind of up to speed, right? Where I mean, what are the limitations, what are not the limitations, instead of just going out and basically being an amplifier for someone else, right? So once you do that, things will change. And that, I believe, all the three levels of exec, right from the CXO level, the next level, and the next level below. I always had this fundamental thing that these guys became less hands-on.
Yeah.
These guys became less experimental. These guys became more classic managers and spreadsheet pushers, right? So you have to change that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
And with AI and more startups coming up, more disruption, do you think we're going to go towards this world where CXOs have to do this? There's no other option.
There will be no choice. There will
Yeah.
be no choice because even the way the government functions, right? India is basically a classic. Oh, we have digitized everything, but actually, the truth is far from that, right?
Yeah.
You've had some good successes. I'm not saying no, especially with UPI, especially with all the stuff that Nandan has been doing with. I mean, hats off to him. He's probably one of the few people who somehow got it together and built something, right? Rest of the people are all kind of all over the place. You go talk to the DST guys, you go talk to AT guys, they talk a good story, they are pushing funds, the intent is there, but the impact is not going to be there unless you change your thinking. So my thought process was, why not I go to Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy
Hmm.
and embrace the new IAS batch? Are they adequate? Are they thinking? First
Hmm.
principles in terms of applying all this new tech. I want to do it with the army graduates also, because we need to actually really actually make sure that we bring it into mainstream. This kind of a change.
Yeah. Got it. Interesting. Very interesting. From a VC point of view, right? I mean, and I'm kind of going one hat by one hat, right? What do you think are some of the common mistakes that a lot of VCs are doing?
The biggest mistake that VCs make is they kind of follow a trend blindly. Okay. And they also shun away certain things because if someone else is shunning it away. So again, they lack first principles thinking about a space, especially technology. And if I look at technology oriented VCs in India, there'll probably be a handful, okay, who really understand it. Because when I am not able to understand something that the guy is saying and it seems interesting, I will actually go do my own research. I'll download, I'll play around with the code, I'll go take a look at that. That kind of thinking is not there. Everyone thinks a VC's job is cool. The guy is getting paid boku bucks. It's a very tough job because first of all you have to fundraise. Second of all, you're answerable to your investors.
Yes.
Thirdly, you have to deal with all these entrepreneurs who have all the idiosyncrasies and they also have to scale the company before you can get an exit. Right? So
Yeah.
it's not very easy. So if you try to rush things when there's a trend, you tend to overlook stuff. And when you tend to
Hmm.
overlook stuff, that's when you make bad mistakes in terms of investments.
Hmm. Okay. Anything else?
The other thing is don't fall into standard trap where you get a entrepreneur who's a pretty good sales guy who can really talk really nicely and keeps on dropping AI and machine learning, AI, ChatGPT everywhere. If the guy uses it more than 6 times in the first 5 minutes, you know this is all bullshit, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, from a technical standpoint of view, what do you think are three biggest issues with AI today?
From a research standpoint,
In terms of technicalities of AI, right? The way it has been modeled, the way we are going after this big data, we are taking certain approaches as opposed to maybe
I,
symbolic reasoning and other
as far
things.
as I'm concerned, the evolution of language models has always been happening. When you have access to data and you have the access to actually play around with weights real time, these models become more and more accurate.
Yeah.
Will it be 100% no? Now, what are the challenges? The challenges are to kind of smartly bring in aspects of LLM, but have models which are reasonably precise and make sure that they come together to solve something at basically 100% accuracy because that can be done if you actually bring. So that is where the real challenge is because we're getting a lot of publications, we're getting a
Mm.
lot of benchmarks, but these benchmarks are useless. Like for example, I wrote a compiler for HP, then I had to kind of benchmark it on Intel, I had to benchmark it on AMD, I have to benchmark it on
Yeah.
Solaris Spark, okay, whatever, HP Apollo. Those benchmarks are benchmarks, right? How does it matter if something is faster or not? Is it useful? And that usefulness in terms of pragmatically saying that I will leverage all this to kind of improve my TRL, which is translational research, and push ideas into the 5 to 7 zone where we can actually start to push some real products out which can solve problems. It's
Hmm.
very, very important.
Okay. Any other things that you feel that the path that the current AI is taking, right?
I think the path that the current AI is taking is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong. It's a natural evolution, as I told you. For the
Yeah.
last 40, 50 years, it's been happening. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't something which happened overnight. And people need to understand that. That's the biggest thing. If people think it happened overnight, they're the guys who are going to make mistakes.
Hmm. Got
So
it.
you have to go back first principles and figure out what is our research today. Can the research be augmented? Can the research kind of be pushed in a pragmatic manner to kind of provide something as opposed to just a publication so that it solves some useful problems? I think in
Hmm.
that context, AI has to be leveraged.
But isn't that largely the job of an applied guy as opposed to a pure research guy?
Pure research guy is anyway doing his models,
Yeah.
right? So that model has to be blended with things which are pragmatic also outside.
Yeah.
So that is what I'm trying to say. Both have to
Got
come
it.
together.
Got it. Okay. Anything about the black boxness or the opaqueness, right? I mean, one of the things that I keep hearing in academia is that we have come to a stage where you take a machine, you feed large amounts of data, and then something happens and the magic happens, right? Our ability to understand what is actually happening deep inside, right? As opposed to maybe 10, 15 years ago before kind of deep learning started. Any comments on that side of the world?
Well, my thing is again, it's evolution, right? I mean, if you understand what a large language model is, it's basically a complex power of speech, grammar driven kind of tree, right? Okay, and then you constantly adjusting weights based on responses to kind of get to some particular situation. Now, can you use that to solve an engineering problem? The answer is no. Can you use that to get valuable inputs to try out different things in case of an engineering problem? The answer is yes. So that is where it is, right? So
Got
use everything for what it is. Don't basically think it's God, right? It's not.
it. Okay. If researchers could solve one sub problem in AI, right, what would you wish it to be?
I think
Anything
I think
foundational, fundamental level?
yeah, I basically think that if it starts looking at society, okay,
Hmm.
and policies related to society, which could be health, education, which it can throw up a lot of options, and
Hmm.
then leverage that to implement stuff. It'll be good. Because today, what do? We give it to the usual government of India, I'll give it to the usual big four like BCG, Bain, McKinsey, or whatever.
Hmm.
Those guys do nothing but come and collect information from you and then repackage
Hmm.
it and give it to you.
Hmm.
Why do we need that? Because we already have enough data. We already have interns. We can actually kind of be a far, far better BCGs in many situations when it comes to policies. So I think a lot of things can be done.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
gave you just one example. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking about even if you're talking about R&D and you're thinking about in the, I'm talking about commercial context where you're working for a product company and you're saying, okay, I have this whole skeleton in front of me. I have a previous generation product. How do I completely reface it? And
Hmm.
various aspects of that you can query ChatGPT. Some you can actually kind of simulate using deep language models. Some you can simulate using basically built-in SDKs and running closed alphas and closed betas. Lots of things can be done.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Uh, is there any popular narrative of the AI world that you don't just come by at all, or like, okay, doesn't make sense at all?
No, it's the same thing. Anytime there's a trend, people will say, man, the world will change immediately. Everything will go away. I don't believe that. Okay.
Sure.
I don't
Sure.
believe that because actually it's created by us only, right? So
Yeah.
there are limitations and nothing can be solved. Okay. In fact, if you say AI can solve a problem 100%, then I'll say it's NP complete.
Correct.
You have to break the problem down. You have to have human intervention. Now, the nature of your work might change because you may not do everything from scratch. So
Yeah.
that's okay. Nothing wrong.
Interesting. Very interesting. And uh, I mean, one example to the point that you made, right, is agentic AI. So while a lot of people are, it has become the new hot word, right, as opposed to LLM, but also
Then
even Lahar,
what is
right?
a agent? So let me go back. Okay, what is a shell script?
Exactly. Correct. It
If you
will
put in
run, it
some,
will call a
put in
couple
some
of other.
intelligence and you put in some kind of thing, it
Yeah,
becomes a bot. Then you put in
absolutely.
something without an interface and you create a protocol, you basically create an
Absolutely.
agent. Right?
Absolutely.
That's all
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. I think the way the true difference lies is exactly the point you were raising earlier. Are these autonomous machines that are coming together to solve a problem collectively? And that's
Yeah,
a different paradigm.
yeah, and that can never happen because you have to have strict protocols. You have to have zero trust environments. You have to basically test the whole thing out. It's not that easy to solve.
Correct. Correct. MPC mode. Correct. Do you see? I mean, one of the things that has started to a lot of companies are saying to the world is that hey, we have started to use AI because of which we are letting go of our workforce because we have efficiencies that are coming. Do you think AI has really got to a point whereby, at a real number level, the companies can let go of, even if it that means 5% of their workforce, or
I
this is
think,
more a
yeah,
narrative?
no, I think they will let go of certain people in the workforce because rote tasks, okay,
Hmm,
repetitive tasks will go away. And basically using whatever you might call it, agentic AI, I can basically make my agents, even if it's a customer support agent, much more efficient than a typical human being because the kind of people you hire for customer support role really themselves don't understand products
sure.
and they keep kind of it's a very poor broken experience if you look at it. Customer
Yeah.
support is one, okay, clearly. Then you have all these telesales people selling you bullshit without understanding what they're doing, so all that will go away. Call center, at least the first level of intervention, because you will actually leverage AI a lot more. So this is going to happen, and this is going to affect India for sure, right? Now, what should India do? India should basically start saying that what can I leverage these people for? Can we teach them how to basically build agents? Can we get them to upskill themselves in terms of handling software agents, right?
Hmm.
Managing software agents, what do you look for? How do you monitor it? Those kind of things, right, are important. But I don't think we are there yet. When I come to India, I don't think the world is also thinking that way yet, but it'll happen.
In terms of time frame, when do you think this will start to happen? Where a
I think
decent
some of these things have already started to happen. Okay.
amount will start
If
to
you
happen?
look at some of the layoff data trends where they're getting laid off, it's going to happen.
Hmm.
I
Got
think
it.
the real creative fields
Hmm.
like UI, UX design and all probably will not be replaced. Okay, because you need that expertise. Of course,
Yeah.
what will happen is the speed of experimentation, speed of testing will improve.
Hmm.
Similar is the case with coding. But when it comes to actually putting a system out there, you still need people who understand what's happening.
Yeah.
How do you debug something if it breaks? Do you
Hmm.
understand it? In fact, today most of the guys who are writing code don't even understand how to debug software,
Right. Right.
and
Okay.
it's becoming worse, 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 and worse.
Okay. Interesting. So, are societies ready for this kind of transformation?
Society may
Really?
not be ready, but if they're not ready, they'll be made ready, or some of them will basically get obsoleted. They'll not be in mainstream. Everything is going to change, Anush. When you have home automation itself will have enough AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Absolutely.
vehicle will have enough AI, right? So you have to get used to it, whether you like it or not. Of
Yeah.
course, you can always be a cool guy like me who says, I'll live a simple life, I'll drive a manual shift, stick shift car. That's okay.
Yeah.
But on the whole, the
On the
trend is
whole,
going to change.
yes.
I mean,
But
you're doing a podcast. Tomorrow you might have your own YouTube channel. You might have your own music channel. You might have your own apparels channel.
absolutely.
Right?
So, if this is going to impact a fairly large number of society, which it will, especially maybe the bottom people at the bottom of the society,
Mm.
won't that disturb the social fabric and then the kind of reactions governments tend to do typically are knee-jerk reactions? right? Where, okay, let us stop everything, let it be the way it has been and stuff like that. So do you see that anytime soon?
So I think government is something which is designed to be a natural friction. Okay. Because there are old guys thinking some stuff there, implementation is poor. I'm talking not just India, I'm talking about the US, I'm talking about Europe, I'm talking about everyone.
Sure.
They, I mean, probably with the exception of China, maybe, because they are basically homogeneous, they're action driven. Rest of the place, it'll take a while because they have to experiment, they have to do this, they have to do that. So it's not going to be that straightforward.
Okay, interesting. Uh, if
Even if you
in
get, even if you get 10 Nobel laureates,
okay,
okay, or 10 Turing Award winners who have some background in AI and
yeah,
put them in the government, the government will destroy them.
interesting. Very interesting. And I agree to that point. Right? What you say, I understand where you come from. One of the things that I see is that it's not that the R&D is happening for the first time. It has always happened. But the time for something to move from a research lab to somebody who is a practitioner
Hmm.
in AI, the time has now come down to maybe couple of days, maybe even couple of hours, and that is kind of a second order acceleration that it is bringing
That's,
in.
that is bound to happen, but you can't keep on pushing stuff out
Yeah.
with no consumption, right? You have to actually match demand. So I basically think that you'll have to slow down certain things and you have to accelerate certain things.
Okay. What do
But
you think?
that power is there in human intervention.
So, what are the things you believe should be slowed down, and what are the things you believe should be accelerated?
So if you run rampant and introduce AI and all the products into healthcare,
Hmm.
okay, it could have a significant impact if it's not gone through certain things, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have that some degree of regulations, or
Yeah.
maybe fintech products. Not so much academics. I think they can experiment a lot with academics. But if you're talking about manufacturing, okay, when you push something out very quickly, the ecosystem may not be ready.
Hmm.
Okay, so speed is one thing. I think doing it right is the other thing. And doing it right is where I think India has a chance to kind of do something
Hmm.
for itself, which is how can we improve the state of our MSME so that their employment figures double, so that our per capita GDP actually doubles because jobs are there and we are building something which is very, very self-sufficient. You don't have to depend on things outside anymore. Try to make it as self-sufficient as possible here.
So, I recently had a very interesting experience where my son appeared for a competition. He was supposed to write a poem. His poem was supposed to be on his favorite topic,
Hmm.
and he he realized this just one night before the competition. So what he
Hmm.
did is he actually went to ChatGPT, gave the topic, created this nice poem, went next day, recited and won.
Hmm.
Now the original idea of the school of course was to be creative in
Hmm.
terms of creating the poem. My son was creative in a different way altogether. Given all of this, the way a lot of the fundamental skills that the way we might have learned will change and all of this stuff. What are some of the suggestions that you would give to a school going student or college going student today from all aspects, employability in terms of first principle thinking, in terms of being able to learn anything?
So my thought process is you have all the tools available to you, you have all the information available to you, experiment, use that. But when you're presenting your work, let people know that you've leveraged all these resources. Don't try to pretend that you have created it because that's the worst thing. India is so good at doing that that we've lost our ethics. Everyone steals someone else's work and puts it out there as their,
Yeah.
right? You have to give credit, right? And then there's nothing wrong in using all these tools because they're there for you to use. As a
So,
prof, also, I will ask my students to use it. But then what is a different thing? I mean, I will make it more interesting saying that solve slightly tougher problems.
interesting. So overall, education has to change, right?
100%. 100%.
Uh, and like we just discussed, right, the rate at which this is coming is much faster as opposed to what was
You
30
won't
years
have
ago.
choice. Your CBSE, your NCERT, your AI, they'll all go. They're filled with people who basically been doing the same thing for 30 years.
Absolutely,
They have to.
absolutely. Uh,
I'm talking
and
about
I
it.
will
Also go, also the same thing vis-a-vis the US.
absolutely right. I was talking to Vinayak just a couple of episodes before, and one of the things that we discussed, we both have young kids, 10 years old.
Hmm.
If someone asks you like, what is your child gonna be seeing as the world 5 years from now, we have no ideas, right? The only
I,
thing,
I have an idea. I know everyone will basically feel happy, they'll be productive, they'll have tools, they'll be able to do a lot of things, right? And the nature of work will change. It'll be a happier society, it'll be a more transparent society because you're using all this, right? As opposed to kind of having one neta coming and telling you what to do. If I file an FIR in the police station, it'll be actually transparent. We'll know what is happening. No one
interesting.
will come in. So things are going to change. And problem solving will be fun because you will get to kind of do a lot of things with your peers. You won't be just ostracized because you're a bad mathematician or you're a poor programmer or you don't understand software. All that will be gone, which is good.
From a
You
skills
you
point
won't
of
have
view,
won't have any issues if you have essentially any like a speech impediment because you can participate, or if you're
that
slightly hearing challenged. All of that will go. Things have to improve. Please.
AGI will AGI come, and by when, and then what does that mean?
I think right now, basically, it's too early to tell. Will there be a movement like it? Yeah, yes, I think there will be. But will it be called that? I don't know. Because we have to actually see many more instances of what is happening before we can actually say this is a true trend or movement.
Uh,
Right
uh,
now, a lot of exciting things are happening. Some are good, some are experimental, some are actually not that good. Okay, that's what's happening. And
so
in each field, you'll see that, each
absolutely.
domain.
So what are some of the things that worries you the most?
What worries me a lot is basically blind use of these technologies, right? Because if you don't have appropriate governance, policy controls, you could actually kind of wreck someone's life overnight.
Yeah, but even for those who are making policy, right?
Hmm.
All of this is very new. We have not seen
It,
anything like
it,
that, right?
that's why all the policy institutes need to basically revamp their programs also. What is primary research? What is secondary research? Secondary research will probably come from things like LLMs and things like that. They'll get information. So you have one more source. How do you bring it all together? Then you have to simulate a case study saying that what happens if this goes wrong? What happens if that goes wrong? And so they'll have much more power to do all of these. Today, what they do is they do research and they put out a policy. And that policy, largely, okay, if you look at it, I've been on committees, is basically placating everyone. When you placate everyone, the policies are kind of toothless, kind of painful, and very, very large, right?
Yeah, yeah. But these are people who are experts maybe in policy making, not the AI or text. I mean, today it's AI, tomorrow it will be quantum,
Something
right?
else, they have to they have to understand that that has become one other valuable source into their policy making. If they don't embrace that, then they're gone.
Not a question about that, right? But are there enough experts who can play multiple roles? Healthcare, you said, judiciary,
So
armed
it
forces,
depends on who's,
policy.
yeah, it depends. Like, if you look at like Homi Baba and all, they were visionaries, right? You need people like that running these institutes. You just don't need an administrative type.
Looks like we need a lot of visionaries where we are heading.
Our biggest problem is we basically deify a lot of people repeatedly and they lose their usefulness also over time because they're there on every committee, they're there on every board. That's it.
Very interesting thought, sir. Very, very interesting. Uh, any closing remarks, any suggestions, especially to the students, younger generation? Think of a eighth class, seventh class kid. What do you
Uh,
go and tell?
my thing is do a lot of work outside the classroom, leverage the technology, bring it back, make sure that you're interacting with your peers, make sure you involve your teachers, make sure you involve your parents, make it somewhat continual, make it fun. Don't make it a drudgery. Slowly, the world will kind of change. Even the schools will change.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your insights. You've always been somebody who has never shied away in voicing your opinion. Uh, and I've always been a huge fan of that. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving perspective. Uh, Thanks a lot for your time. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. I also want to thank you, Anuj, because you're also doing invaluable work. I know we've been trying to get you and your work in several places. It has been excruciatingly painful because sometimes the decision making is not at its best quality, right? Because people always say, I have something which is better, which is actually pretty wrong. That's another
Absolutely.
thing that we need to efface out of our thinking. But I don't think it'll go out that quickly because my stuff is always better than yours, will always be there. Okay. So on that, I will kind of hang up. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Bye.